Photography is one of the most powerful mediums of storytelling through which we can convey thoughts, emotions, history, tradition. The list goes on. It affords us the opportunity to freeze moments and relive memories. But being a good photographer and telling stories through the camera lens goes way beyond owning a camera or a mobile phone, as the case may be. There are technicalities involved that require you to understand what story you're trying to tell, the emotions you intend to elicit with those images, the right lighting, the subject matter to be shot, and the ability to connect with them emotionally and translate same via the lens. Joining us today to discuss the ins and outs of telling African stories through a camera lens is Yagazie Egwari, an award-winning photographer, storyteller, as well as a founder and lead creative at Gazmadu Studios. Thank you for joining us, Yagazie.
Thank you so much, Olive.
First of all, congratulations. You recently celebrated 10 years in the industry, 10 years of photography. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And you've told several stories, Yagazie,
Yes.
from, climate change. You've told stories about with the marine. I mean, there's so many sectors you've talked about, marine
Yes.
wildlife and the likes. And you're the first black woman to photograph for National Geographic. Tell us what the journey has been like for you.
So the journey has been, well, first of all, it's been life defining because I went from not knowing that I was going to be a photographer to doing this consistently for 10 years. So definitely life defining for me. It has also been, that life defining in the sense that it has helped me connect with several people, across cultures, different stories, different, kinds of people, and learning several lessons from them. It has also been very fulfilling through, being part of some of the most important stories in the lives of people, and also connecting with them on a personal level, learning from them, and also with the work that I do with photographers and creators, impacting the lives of other photographers. It has also been full of so many lessons. Challenges go a long way in helping. Challenges have gone a long way in helping me come into my own. So along the line, there has been several challenges, but those has formed into lessons that have really played such a huge role in helping me come into my own.
Absolutely. All right. We have Osalge, who I'm certain will be joining us in the conversation. Osalge?
No, ask about the storytelling perspective. Because a lot of people have cameras and can take pictures, but not very
Absolutely.
many people can tell stories.
Yes.
With their camera. So,
Yes.
what are the key elements that you feel you must bring together to ensure that your photography tells the story that you want to tell?
Well, some of the key elements that is so important to put together, to ensure that your image tells a story is, first of all, there is the story that is intended, right? It's important to think about what am I trying to convey with this photograph, and that goes a long way in how much observation, how much the photographer is able to see, because we don't create, the camera is just a tool. First of all, we see with the eye of the mind before we even create the images. So understanding what what the intention is in the first place, goes a long way. Second is the lighting. Lighting is almost everything as far as photography is concerned, because photography in itself is painting with light. So once you understand what story you're trying to tell, is now what kind of light do I need to be able to emphasize or bring out the story in the way that I want it to. Now the third thing is composition. Composition is so key, because these are the other elements in the photograph that is going to help to either amplify the story, define the story, or just strengthen the story and just make it more obvious to the viewer. And the fourth one is connection. And I think connection is really everything. First of all, it's connection between the photographer and the subject, or the photographer and whatever it is that they're trying to photograph. Because first of all, having that connection helps you, photograph that from a different perspective. You're not just creating something inanimate. You're able to connect with that in such a way that you're now, you're interpreting based off that connection. Then the second level of connection is the connection between the photograph taken and the viewer, right? Now, one of the things that make people stay longer in photographs is they feel something. You look at that photograph and it's just like, there's just something about this picture. I can't really say. So it's either you're able to tell what the story the photographer was trying to tell, or you're able to find your own story from just looking at that photograph. And that's from an artistic perspective, where people, when they say art is very subjective, you can see an art and somebody has a different story or different ways that they were able to connect with that. So all of those things coming together definitely makes a great photograph.
I mean, you've mentioned different levels of connection. Let's talk about being able to connect with the subject matter, the client, right? Then not everyone is comfortable in front of the camera.
Absolutely.
How are you able to connect with them and get them to relax and tell the story that you want them to tell?
So first is empathy. I know what it feels like to be in front of the camera. I think, when I started getting photographs of myself, and having other people photograph me, it was a humbling experience, because it made me understand what it actually does feel like and how uncomfortable it can be being in front of the camera. So being in that position of empathy, knowing that I know how you feel right now. I know that it is uncomfortable being in front of me. I know that it is a bit of a vulnerable place. So having that empathy, helps me know how to create that safe space that allows the person be and allows them understand that I see you, I understand that there is a struggle here, but I'm going to make it easy for you. This is not going to be, a stress-free, so all those other elements, ensuring that there are no other things that are maybe stressing. They're not worrying about different things, in addition to the fact that I'm being in front of the camera. The second thing is also making it a fun experience, right? It doesn't have to be that serious. I mean, I always tell my clients, like, don't worry, it's not really that serious. We're just going to have fun together. And this is us working together. It's not about you. You don't have to do anything, we're here together. So, I'm here to connect with you. I'm here to work with you. And we're just here to have fun together. So connecting with that in that, making it a fun and a relaxed atmosphere really does go a long way. And then the third one is being able to connect with them, with having striking conversations, getting to know them a bit more better, because people kind of sit into their own when they start talking about the things that they love. So if they start talking about the things that they love, they just feel like, okay, you're my friend, this is not that serious, and they just light up. And that's really where the magic happens, because being able to capture that essence, the person has to really fully be in themselves. They're not trying to be anyone. They're not trying to be an imagination that they've said. They're just being there. And so going through that process gets us to the point where we're like, oh yes, that's it.
I want you to share a little bit more about the work you've done surrounding the struggles of women, stories of women that you've done in Africa. And of course, we all know you've also equally received the recognition and awards for some of those. Give us a brief overview of some of these stories and tell us, which one impacted you the most.
So, I've done quite a number of work over the years with my photography, and those that know me would say that I love to photograph women, and and that's very true, because I feel very connected to the woman's story, and how we are evolving and who we are, and empowering them to just become more of who they were created to be. So I'm just going to highlight maybe 4 projects that I've done in the past maybe 1-2 years. Last year I did a collaboration with the Lady Biba brand, and we did Be Your Beautiful. It was a project that we did at the beginning of the year, and what we're trying to just do is just encouraging, telling the story of how you can just really come into your own without having to think that you need to have this, have that, have the way you are is just good enough for you to achieve everything that you want to achieve. So really just celebrating the beauty in that, the beauty in every woman, even when we are different, even when someone is shorter, you're taller, you're fatter, however you are your own beautiful. And that being in that authentic place is such a powerful place to be able to live out your own essence in the way that you're supposed to. In the beginning of this year, we also did a second project, and it was Winning Together. One of the things we're trying to do with that was trying to debunk the myth around women working, this thing that people say, oh, women don't work well together, women don't support, women. I have such a huge, network. I'm blessed to have so many women in my life. I have sisters, I have women that I have worked with. I love working with women, and I've had a great experience doing that. Of course, there are challenges, just like there are challenges working with men, but having that meet, we just didn't think it was great. So we wanted to, put this campaign and project together to just celebrate women that are actually working together in different ways, whether it's a mentor mentee, whether they are business partners, whether they are friends, whether they are just colleagues or people that just met themselves. So we celebrated that, and I think that was phenomenal. Another one was and that's regarding photography, was the art, business and creativity conference that we held last year in November. That was an amazing project for creatives, and also Project X. So in terms of the one that impacted me the most would be Project X, and one of the upcoming projects that we have coming sometime next year.
Okay, we look forward to having you join us again to talk to us about this. I was reading your profile and seeing a lot of the work that you've done many years ago, starting from, going to Monrovia, Nairobi. You were talking about women who didn't have access to education. I was just asking myself, I need to do something. I was really inspired. Let's talk about branding. And, when we talk about branding, a photograph is a way by which you can brand. It's an important element that tells us a lot about the subject matter. Africa as a continent, what are some of the stories that we need to tell more
of? One of the stories that we need to tell more of is, first of all, we need to tell more of the good that is happening in Africa, right? Our people, right? The amazing culture that we have, the diverse culture that we have, the young people that are doing great and phenomenal work, our landscape, our cityscape, as the way it is. I think generally it's just propagating more and more of the good, and our food. So I think the more we talk about all the good that is existing in Africa, the more the good is going to be multiplied, because branding is really just a perception done intentionally so that it can inspire action from anybody viewing it. So once we're intentional with propagating and pushing out every good that is happening in Africa, I think that will go a long way in elevating our branding.
Thank you so much, Yagazi Egwari, for joining us this morning on the show. This has been a very insightful conversation. We look forward to seeing you working with more women across Africa and telling more stories, because these stories need to be told.
Of course.